morning. Good morning. Okay, Mr. Mayor, you have the invocation this morning. And Mr. Gurley, you had the pledge. We have approval of minutes and adjustment of the agenda, Mr. Honeycutt.
Nothing at this time.
On the unfinished business, we're going to talk about an unfinished business, those bids, or are we going to leave those in, or?
We are going to leave those in. We're going to ask for direction from the board.
Okay.
So,
Are there any changes to the agenda from the commissioners? Okay. We have public comments. I know we got a bunch of appointments this morning.
We do.
And then at that time, we'll recess the Board of Commissioners and reconvene the Wayne County Board of Adjustment meeting. Do that and adjourn from there, then reconvene. And unfinished business, David Harris is here. I see him out there this morning.
yes, sir.
And he'll give us an update on the CDBG-DR. You got to come up with some different acronyms, I'm telling you. And then 2, we got the bid for the EMS stations, and 3, which is the bid for the Shell building.
Yes, sir. What we're planning to do is ask you for permission to begin negotiating with the lowest bidders for both the EMS substations and also the Shell buildings to see if we can negotiate that price down a little bit more. And then we will bring that back to the board for hopefully a contract ready for approval at our next meeting for construction.
Okay. Then moving to the consent agenda, we've got the exclusions for elderly and disabled, and for disabled veterans, and those are all in order.
Yes, sir.
And I see we've got a person sitting over there for finance today. Good morning. So budget amendments is yours.
Yes, sir. All right, we will start with Budget Amendment 575. This first group of budget amendments are to tidy up the remainder of 1718. So the first budget amendment is for EMS, and we're requesting to reallocate $8,500 from repairs and maintenance to the fuel line item. And the reason why we need to do this is because we saw an increase in fuel prices as the year went along, and, excuse me, we just need to move those monies over. Number 664 is for the Maxwell Center. This is to reappropriate funds for the July 2018 USD loan payment. When we budgeted for the loan payments, we did not take into account that payment would actually be due before the new year started. So we need to go ahead and reappropriate those funds to make that payment before we closed out the year. The next one is the sheriff's excuse me, my voice is cracking this morning. To reappropriate the Sheriff's Department, the controlled substance, we received some more monies before the year end, so we need to get that on the books to make sure it would be there for us to reappropriate in the new year. That was for 1685.
If I could inquire, why does it show the budget amendment for fiscal year 16-17?
Oh, it does say, doesn't it?
That's just a typo. We did not correct the form. That's incorrect.
That is
It should say 1718.
Thank you.
Sorry, we did not catch that. Number 680 is also the Sheriff's Department, and this is like the EMS budget amendment, where we just needed to move some funds up to the gas, oil, and tires out of office supplies and professional services to cover the higher gas prices. Number 733 is workers' comp. We had a late claim that came in before we closed the year, and so we needed to move funds, and we moved the funds out of fund balance, not from general fund. We had the funds available, $16,636, and we are still under from the previous year so far as our cost, our claim amount. Number 744 is from Social Services. These funds are needed to cover through the year end for their security services. So they had the funds available in client transportation that they're reallocating up to security services for $5,305. The Maxwell Center, number 747. This one was a little complicated. That's why I have Janice here with me today to help me if you have any questions. Her and Allison had to work this one out with the help of our auditor. But what this is basically is to appropriate the debt service fund to the Maxwell Center. During the budget, we split the building, the administrative offices and the Maxwell Center, as two separate buildings. Where our auditor advised us that's probably not a good idea. So at your recommendation, you wanted to see the Maxwell Center receiving some of the rents from the administrative offices. That's what this budget amendment is doing for 17-18. So we're correcting that. Later on down the line, we're going to fix it for 18-19. The full loan will be sitting in the Maxwell Center. So the revenues from the administration, the rent from administrative buildings and for the USDA lease will be in the Maxwell Center for the revenue, so they can recognize the revenue in the Maxwell Center.
And we are working on that USDA lease now. Kind of the interesting thing is, even though they had greater square footage over at the Wayne Center, they're much less square footage than they have now. So we're trying to balance that off to have the same amount of revenue. So we'll increase the revenue, or increase the square footage lease, but the square footage they're using is much less than what it was.
I bet they don't want to go back over here, though.
You're right.
How are you all arriving at the rental rate per square foot?
I believe
They have sent us a very lengthy,
Yeah.
detailed form to complete, and it's taken several of us to provide them the information so far as utilities, supplies,
Right.
salaries, anything that we contribute, the county contributes as a cost. Apparently, they're going to take all this information
Right.
and come up with a new rent.
we will pay.
You got to remember, you're dealing with the federal government.
They were paying approximately $725 or $730 per square foot over at the Wayne Center. So we will charge them more, but their square footage is about 2,000 less than it was.
Yeah, but it sounds like they're the ones that are determining what the rate is. If you're having to finish all that.
We will finish it up. We will put a figure in there once, but
I have just never heard where you actually have tenants move into an occupied space without getting the rent established and the lease signed, but whatever.
That finished up our 17-18 budget amendment, so now, Happy New Year, we're starting our new budget amendments. This first one is from the Health Department. When we finalized the budget, this grant had not been received, or the additional funds actually had not been received. I'm sorry, I'm getting out of line. That's on down the line. Let's rewind here. This amendment is needed to move funds budgeted for the health education specialist position. This is a budgeted position to the professional services line item to fill this position on a trial basis. This budget amendment carries them through December of 2018. They are using the North Carolina Alliance of Public Health Agencies to cover these services for the health department for $20,000.
After December 2018, where does this position?
I am not sure, this is an assumption that hopefully within that time period, maybe they will have found somebody to fill that position. Number 3 is also the health department. This is a maternity position. They are going to utilize, this is another area they're having difficulty finding people to fill these positions, but they're going to utilize the medical lab tech students at Wayne Community College and use them in a part-time status to provide coverage in their maternity lab. So we have to move those funds from salaries and wages so we can pay them out of extra help.
Can we, just a minute, back up on the first one, the health department one? The $20,000 will get them through till the end of December for this position?
This is what Mr. Madden and Mr. Stern have estimated.
So we're looking at 6 months.
Yes, sir.
All right. This position is not filled now, correct?
That is correct.
Do we know what that position would pay?
I do not, but I'd be glad to find that out for you.
I mean, if it's a $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 position, then we can get it for 40. Why fill it?
And it may be on a part-time basis. It may not be, the services that will be provided for us will not be for full-time status. It may be for part-time.
Okay.
And then also, you don't have the fringes that you
Okay.
have to.
Okay, all right, just check into that for us.
I sure will.
Thank you.
I believe we were on number 4, and that's also the Health Department. This is one of the ones that when we finished up the budget, after that, they received additional funding in the BCCP program for 2005-23, so we are just putting that on the books so that they can spend that money. Number 5 is Health Department. This amendment is needed to increase the WIC program. This is another one that we had received additional funding after the budget was completed. So we're appropriating $5,949. Here's the other budget amendment I mentioned earlier for the Maxwell Center, number 6. This is where we're getting our books correct, the budget correct, to put the loan on the Maxwell Center side and to give the Maxwell Center credit for the rent revenue for the administrative offices and for the Farm Service Agency. The next 4 are grouped together. 7, 8, 9, and 10 are all library grants. 7 and 8 were grants that were actually awarded last year, but they did not finish spending this grant down, and they have received approval from their grantor to continue spending that money, so we're just reappropriating that for them to spend down this year. And then 9 and 10, we did not appropriate any of the library grants, so they've received 2 grants. One is LSTA Lifelong Learning Grant, and the other is a Smart Start Ready to Read grant, and we're just putting those on the books as well. One is for $46,927, and the other is for $141,985.94.
Any questions? Are you going to cover the short-term
I will be glad to move on to
loans as
that.
well?
We have a memo in our agenda packet that explains it in detail, but basically, we have 2 funds, Fund 266, which is our CDBG-DR grant, and Fund 667, which is Maxwell Center. So what we have asked that you approve is for us to do a short-term loan. Our cash is in the negative on both of these funds. For the CDBG-DR is $79,141.34, and the reason why we need a short-term loan, and when we say short-term, we mean short-term. As soon as we open up the books, we will reverse this. But CDBG-DR, we spent $79,000 out of our funds. We submitted our grant reimbursement as they asked us to by the deadline, and we were expecting that grant to be reimbursed to us, our expenditures, but they have not. So we're still awaiting that, and it should come in shortly. So in order to keep our cash out of a negative balance, we need to do a short-term loan so we don't have any write-ups on our audit. On 667, the Maxwell Center, that is due to a late billing that went out because we were awaiting additional information. We probably already received the payment, but in order to make sure our 17-18 audit is clean, we want to do a short-term loan to keep that cash out of the negative.
Yeah, you really don't want to show yourself in the red.
And it's in process, and we've probably already reconciled that.
All right, thank you. Moving on, we've got a motion to approve the quitclaim deed.
We have basically, and I'll try to give the Cliff Notes version. Back in 1933, I believe the property was foreclosed. The county took ownership. Then it went back was sold. However, the title was still in Wayne County's name. And the property owners have been paying taxes on it ever since. but the property has still remained in Wayne County's name. So what we would like to do is reverse that in a quick claim and go back to the Sproul heirs, the Leonard Sproul and heirs, just reverse that.
You say 1933?
Yes, sir.
The first deed on here is 1913.
Yeah. But I think the foreclosure was in 1933. And that's when the county took ownership.
That was during the Depression.
But I think they came back in, paid the taxes, and got the property back, but we were still listed on the deed. But they've paid taxes ever since, so not been an issue with that. Have I explained it?
That's right, and Andrew and tax administrator both agree that this is what should be done.
Well, we found a lot of things in the last 6 years that hadn't been done, but I think this topped the cake.
Generally, they were cleared up earlier when they were discovered, but this is one that's just been discovered. But I think the main thing is the people that are asking you to give the quitclaim deed to them have been paying the taxes. So even though technically and legally they didn't owe them, but it's also very important, the tax office was sending them the tax bill.
That's true.
I wonder how the tax office determined that they were the owners.
Because they were initially the owners, and it didn't get in that they weren't, and they were paying the bill. Probably came in and said, "I want to pay the bill," so put it in their name and gave them, got their address.
In the 80 years. All right. Moving on. Operating hours for landfill.
As the board's aware, we've been looking at the possibility of opening up the landfill and also discussion about the convenience centers. Right now that they're closed on Wednesdays, we have a plan right now to look at opening up the landfill now on Wednesdays. The hours would be from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., and that would change for all. It won't cost us any additional funds. We're just adjusting hours. We're cutting back an hour and a half on other days to make sure we can open up on Wednesdays. But we also really do want to look at the convenience centers as well, as that is a little bit more difficult. We have 13 convenience center sites, and we have a lot of part-time workers, so we're trying to see when the best time to be open without having to hire additional personnel, without having to make some part-time personnel full-time. But this is that start moving forward. We're looking at, the reason why we're looking at a September 3rd date, I believe that was right, 3rd or 4th? 4th, I'm sorry. That is the day after Labor Day, and we thought it would be enough time to start getting people educated that, hey, we're going to do a kind of a media blitz to let people know that we will be open on Wednesdays after that time. So I do know it's a concern of the board to look at the convenience centers, and working with Tim, and Tim will be here at the 9 o'clock if you have any questions, that we're going to do surveys and ask questions about when it needs to be open. So we're trying to do this really as little cost or a little additional cost as possible to the county.
Mr. Manning,
Yes, sir.
all of the convenience centers under the management or direction of the county,
Yes, sir.
to include the one in Mount Olive?
Yes, sir.
All right.
We're trying to give you some more hours down there.
That's good. My curiosity was who had ultimate authority over those.
The Board of Commissioners.
All right.
The Board of Commissioners, so you set the hours and the time frame and when the services will be provided.
But you got to take a close look on how you're going to man it, because it could get it very expensive.
It could on the convenience centers, because again, I think the big issue is there's 13 sites, and then you're adding on, maybe additional 7-8 hours, so 7 times 8, that's 100. It's 112 or 120 hours, so you do have to come up with, so there would be additional cost if we don't adjust the current hours. So,
And that's going to be the key, is adjusting the current hours. A big part of the key or the puzzle.
yes, sir. And that's the reason why we wanted to and work with Tim and work with his staff about a survey about when the convenience centers are the busiest. So, you know, is it later in the afternoon? Is it early in the morning? When, would it get the most use and when would it get the least use? But at least the positive thing is we'll start, and nobody can say, well, I've got trash on Wednesday, I can't dump it anywhere. Well, we'll have a place where you can dump it, now Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday.
Okay. Let's move on to the sales tax, of course, that sales tax resolution.
As the board's aware, we talked a lot about this during the budget process, and number one, I want to thank Carol Bowden for her help in filing this, and also Borden's help. This is a sales tax, and if we approve this, we are asking that this is put on the November ballot for approval. And, we're really talking about this as really an education sales tax.
Does everybody have a chance to read it?
Yes, sir.
You gonna make that motion?
Oh, yeah.
I would. Okay.
But it would probably be good if somebody would read that as well.
Sounds like a good job for you, Mr. Hunter.
I will be more than happy to read. I didn't know if anybody wanted
If you'll read it, I'll make a motion after you get through.
Okay, all right.
If you read correctly.
All right, but I will promise I'll read it correctly. But again, I want to thank Carol and Borden and Andrew for kind of doing some of the checkup behind it.
Okay, well, after that, we'll have county manager comments, board of commissioner, committee reports and comments, and we do need a closed session this
Yes, sir.
morning.
Yes.
For
One, consult with your attorney to keep an attorney-client privilege. Two, to talk about the performance of your employee and the prospective employee, and another to discuss matters relating to the location of business in the county.
There's a motion to go in closed session.
So moved.
Got a motion on the floor. All those in favor, please raise your right hand for a closed session.